morning, Nigeria, and welcome to Daybreak on Trust TV, reaching you from the nation's capital in Abuja. Jamwali. For every day, I will pick one tribe and say good morning in that tribe. So today is Jamwali. That's in full day, I believe. Good morning, Stella.
Good morning, Ayuba. Good morning, Nigeria. So I will also pick one, Ututoma, to all our viewers joining us this morning. It's a delight to be here.
Yes, really, indeed. 2 weeks to the May 29th inauguration of the new administration.
Yep.
A lot is unfolding. Yesterday, we saw the Inspector General of Police issue out warning to those who are probably planning to scuttle the date. That's the May 29th. And,
yes, and he has consistently warned that the day is sacrosanct. Yes. But then on the other side, I've seen people buying ashwebi for the day.
Yes,
you know,
in the usual tradition, Nigerians.
In the usual tradition.
I mean, we've seen people buy ashwebi for even, events outside Nigeria.
Exactly, exactly. Even when, I think I saw ashwebi for the death of Queen Elizabeth. Exactly. I did. I saw.
I mean, trust Nigerians will never take the back seat when it comes to ashwebi. Other things also
we love to celebrate.
Yes, we love to celebrate. We also saw the Federal Executive Council held an emergency meeting on Monday, all geared towards clearing the backlog of memos ahead of the May 29th. A lot is really happening. The governor of Zamfara State, Bello Matawalle, is asking President Muhammadu Buhari not to allow the CBN governor to go on whatever kind of leave.
Study leave,
and any other officer that sacrosanct to the May 29 inauguration. So quite a lot is really unfolding.
Yes, and then well, I mean, there's a record-breaking event. Hilda Bassi.
Yes.
That is something. 100 hours of cooking. I've been thinking since she started, how many hours can I do really? Exactly. I don't think I've cooked more than 6 hours at a stretch. I don't think so.
That's also another thing that people are saying, that Hilda has now raised the bar for women.
She has indeed. She has.
And it's like, now it's the new standard for
what? New standard for every woman. I don't even go there. But one beautiful thing that I saw was the fact that all Nigerians, it didn't matter who you were, where you came from, what party you belonged to, what religion you practiced, they came out to support her.
Yes.
So we can actually be that united.
Yes. And it was quite very, very encouraging. From what I heard, from the first day, she was already feeling discouraged until all the support started coming in. People started, the vice president gave her a call. The governor of Lagos State was there on ground. And a lot of celebrities
were trooping in,
just to show that support for her. So that's a huge record that was broken. 100 hours as against the previous record, which was 87 hours. And
she actually set out for 96. And then she surpassed what she intended to do.
So say congratulations to Hilda Bassi. It was something.
And it just tells you that when you put your mind to something. She said she conceived the idea 6 years ago, started planning for it 5 years ago, and today here we are.
Yes, so it's quite an encouraging one. We are truly proud of her. Now let's take a look at the headlines for today. Deliver on your promises or be voted out, Buhari tells governors-elect.
Sudan crisis, federal government gives condition for fresh evacuation.
The third story now. U.S. announces visa restrictions on Nigerians who manipulated 2023 election results.
Now let's take a look at the details. President Muhammadu Buhari has asked the newly elected and returning governors to deliver on their campaign promises or get ready to be voted out in the next election. He spoke on Monday during the induction of the Nigerian Governors Forum organized ahead of the May 29 inauguration. Our correspondent reports that the organizers said the event, which kicked off at the banquet hall of the presidential villa in Abuja on Monday, is aimed at equipping the new governors to develop the essential skills for democratic governance and the implementation of pre-election blueprints. The president, who was represented by the Chief of Staff, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, said Nigerians must be patient, tolerant, and use the appropriate channels to seek redress.
All right. Now, the federal government has given conditions for evacuation of those still stranded in Sudan. The conditions, it said, are as a result of the sudden increase in the number of people still seeking evacuation. According to a fresh update by the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, those seeking evacuation should fund their way to Port Sudan. they must also have means of identification as Nigerians. Besides, for the government to embark on a fresh evacuation process, the evacuees must have verifiable contacts or abode in Nigeria. No fewer than 2,518 Nigerians have been evacuated following the war in Sudan.
The United States has announced the imposition of visa restriction on some Nigerians who it believes undermined the democratic process of the country during the 2023 general elections. The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken announced the measure in a tweet on Monday, stressing his country's commitment to supporting Nigeria's desire to strengthen democracy and the rule of law. He did not, however, disclose the individuals that are affected by the latest action. Expatiating, his statement posted by the U.S. Embassy and Consulate in Nigeria revealed that those affected were involved in the intimidation of voters through threats and physical violence, the manipulation of vote results, among other election vices.
All right. Now, the race for the leadership of the 10th National Assembly is becoming tougher a few days to the May 29th, when the 9th Assembly will be called off. Although the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, which has majority in the upper and lower chambers, declared a zoning arrangement for the positions, some aspirants vying for the Senate presidency and speakership are, however, opposed to the party's decision. As the issue rages on, one question on the lips of many Nigerians is whether or not elections into the National Assembly leadership will be based on merit or zoning. Ibrahim Ismail reports.
With every passing day, horse trading continues in the two chambers of the National Assembly for the elections of principal officers ahead of the end of the 9th Assembly on May 29th. The ruling All Progressives Congress APC has majority and has zoned the Senate presidency and speakership to South-South and Northwest respectively. However, the APC National Assembly Aspirants Caucus has since rejected the zoning arrangement, creating room for a heated public debate on the matter among Nigerians. Nepotism is what underdeveloped this country. Godfathers install incompetent leaders because they are their godsons for personal interest. Those doing so should fear God. It is bad to impose leaders. It is taking us backward. People had voted in the last election and their votes count. Democracy should prevail in the National Assembly. Elections to fill principal positions in the National Assembly should be free from any regional sentiment. Youth should be allowed to take over because most of the leaders are between 70 and 80 years old. While some Nigerians reject zoning or nomination of candidates by the APC in the election of the National Assembly leadership, political analysts believe that for quality leadership to emerge in the country's legislature, a free and fair election must be allowed to take place at both the upper and the lower chambers.
If there is a teamwork, if there is a unity, if there is adherence to the due process and rule of law, whoever is the leader, it will not change anything, it will not make any difference, it will still be the same thing, we will have what we want. But I am urging them to allow internal democracy within the party to work out. Let them allow those that are contesting, let them allow the National Assembly as an independent entity that has freedom constitutionally to determine who should be and then to go on board instead of imposing, which at the end of the day will lead to revolting.
As it stands, top contenders for the speakership position are Ahmed Idris Wase, Aliyu Mukhtar Betara, Tajuddin Abbas, and Sada Soli Jibia. For the Senate presidency, Godswill Fabio, Oji Uzokalu, Abdulaziz Yari, and Sani Musa are the major contenders. However, zoning arrangement of the APC has given some candidates an upper hand in the race. Ibrahim Ismail, Trust TV News, Gombe.
Thank you, Ibrahim Ismail, for that report. Now, the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Malam Mele Kari, said that despite harsh operating environment, NMPC Limited is projecting a $20 billion growth in the nearest future. He made a projection during the council visit to the headquarters of Media Trusts in Abuja on Monday. Shamun Dabeng completes the report.
Subsequently. Now, the Nigeria Customs Service Federal Operation Unit Zone B has made a seizure of different prohibited items valued at more than 628 million naira at different locations in the zone. The controller of the zone, Musa Ibrahim Jallo, who announced this while briefing journalists in Kaduna, said that the seizures were made between the month of March and April 2023.
Briefing the media, the controller of Federal Operations Unit Zone B of the Nigeria Customs Service, Kaduna, Musa Jallo, revealed that some of the items seized include marijuana and other prohibited items.
The operators of unit, while on credible intelligence, intercepted one used Mitsubishi Canter, registration number AKR10XD, conveying sacks of cannabis sativa, otherwise known as marijuana, concealed with bags of cassava flakes and sandos along Bangudu Safe Road in Zamfara State. After physical examination, the packets were found to contain 40 sacks of marijuana with still value of 2,069,140.40 kobo.
Other items intercepted include military uniform, premium motor spirit, among others.
Similarly, on 23 March 2023, our operators intercepted a suspicion-wide illegal nicotine substance together with 2 male substances, 1 locally made pistol in the course of anti-smuggling operations and with the regulatory axis. The suspected illegal substance together with the male substance were brought to the office for further actions. Officials of the NDLA Drug Law Enforcement Agency Kaduna State Com were invited to carry out a test on the suspected illegal substance to determine its true nature. The test further proved that the illegal substance to be opium, substantive with total weight of 428 kilograms. The street value of the opium substance is 31,018,569.98 kobo only.
The controller, while reiterating the commitment of the zone, also solicited the support of the communities around border areas to continue to provide useful information that will assist them to impound prohibited goods. Bello Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
Thank you, Bello Musa, for that report. Now, no fewer than 200 retired police officers have staged a peaceful protest in Bauchi State, demanding the Inspector General of Police to expedite their exit from the contributory pension scheme over the lingering issues which started since 2012. The media grievances known during the protest to the Bauchi State Commissioner of Police at the State Police Command. Adamu Imam completes the report.
Yeah, all right. Well, again, we apologize for the mix-up there. We'll bring you details of that report subsequently. But for now, let's take a quick breather. When we return, we'll take a look at other issues on the paper. Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130...
A Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secure are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Already, if you look at English squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
depends on where you find that empathy. Look at this.
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right, thank you for staying with us. You're watching Daybreak on Trust TV, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. Now, we'll be taking a look at the dailies now on Daybreak, which we have Dr. Theophilus Abba, the Director of Programs, Daily Trust Foundation, with us in the studio to review some of the stories that we have today on our front pages. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome. Okay. All right, so let's begin with the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. The lead story there, it says, NNPC to resume oil search in Lake Chad next week. And that's Mele Kyari, the CEO of the NNPC Limited. It has the riders that says, opens shares for public next year. Our gas pipeline to connect over 11 countries and Europe. All the details is on page 4. Above the lead story, Buhari to governors-elect, deliver on campaign promises or be voted out. And that's on page 12. Resident doctors to begin 5-day warning strike tomorrow on page 6. Inflation hits 22.2% in April despite monetary tightening on page 23. And these are the main stories on the Daily Trust cover page.
Now let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. It has a lead story that says, Tinubu's inauguration, military IG warned troublemakers as court hears anti-handover case. Beneath that, we have a picture of Shehu Kuti in cuffs. This is shortly after following his assault on the police personnel, and then the caption says, Shehu Kuti spends night in custody, please plan arraignment. And then we have Nollywood stars mourn as Murphy Afolabi is buried. Hilda's marathon cooking smashes world record, grabs global attention. We also have gridlock again. Gridlock again, commuters groan on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. And just above the masthead, we have pay rise. Resident doctors begin warning strike Wednesday. U.S. announces visa ban on Nigerian poor riggers, others. Federal government spends 13 trillion on subsidy, sets removal guidelines. These are the major stories on the Punch newspaper for today.
All right. Now let's take a look at the Sun newspaper. That's the Daily Sun newspaper. The lead story on the Daily Sun says, U.S. slams visa ban on election riggers. Unveil their identities, Nigerians urge. You also have Khan sets agenda for Tinubu, harps on federal character principle. IGP warns saboteurs, political elite against cuddling Tinubu's inauguration. You also have, beside the pictorial, deliver on campaign promises or be sacked, Buhari tells governors. Senate presidency, more senators oppose APC zoning. Buhari, others, hail Chef Basi for placing Nigeria on global spotlight. Court stops NYSC from publishing disclaimer on Enugu governors-elect's discharge certificate. Don't meddle in your successor's affairs, Saraki, Aliyu, others counsel outgoing governors. Assault on policeman, fella's son handcuffed, detained, may be arraigned. You have also 13 trillion naira spent on fuel subsidy in 16 years. That's according to the federal government. These are the main stories on the Daily Sun newspaper.
Over now to the Leadership newspaper, and then it has a lead story that says, avoid debts, pay salaries or fail, Okonjo-Iweala tells governors. And the rider says, perform or be voted out, President Buhari tells governors-elect. And the second rider, let your successors be, Saraki Aliyu Dankwambo caution. Beneath that, we have federal government keeps mum as U.S. imposes visa ban on electoral offenders. We also have resident doctors declare 5-day nationwide strike. Still on the Leadership, insecurity, food scarcity raised inflation to 22.22%. We also have here leadership and DLA partner to address drug abuse. And just beneath the masthead, 13 days to go, threat to inauguration. Perpetrators won't be spared. This is coming from the IGP. These are the major stories on the Leadership newspaper.
Okay. All right, now let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. This morning, the lead story on the Nation says IGP warns subversive element against plot to derail May 29. The writer, political actors conspiring to stop inauguration of President-elect Tinubu and governors. You also have above the masthead, life outside power is challenging. Igbenedion, Saraki tell outgoing governors. You have assault on inspector, detained Shehu Kuti may undergo drug test. NBS puts April inflation rate at 22.22%. And you also have 13 trillion naira spent on subsidy in 16 years, says federal government. These are the stories on the front page of the Nation today.
Now let's take a look at the Vanguard newspaper, which has a slightly different headline from the others. It has 10th NAS leadership crisis. North Central governors kick against zoning to meet Tinubu and WC. And the first rider comes as aggrieved aspirants vow to take battle to plenary. Tinubu's men move to stop probe of Akpabio, Tunji Ojo over NDDC funds. We also have reps spoiled for war today over alleged doctored house rules to favor Abbas. APC placates North Central with SGF. Party supremacy should be upheld. This is according to Kalu. And then we have petrol subsidy costs could be more than 13 trillion, federal government admits. Allow your successors to work as governors, Saraki, Ali, others tell outgoing governors. And then we have U.S. slams visa ban on unnamed Nigerians undermining democracy. And above the masthead, we have focus on debt management, others. Okonjo-Iweala urges incoming governors. Federal government kicks against bill to stop migration of doctors. And we have Buhari should stop study leave, others, Matawale. Naira devaluation, others pressure inflation rate to 22.22%. These are the major stories on the Vanguard newspaper for today.
Okay. All right. Next, we take a look at the This Day newspaper. On the This Day newspaper this morning, the lead story there talks about Buhari. It says it's been bumpy 8 years, but we have built foundation for prosperous Nigeria. Says nation's electorate now maturing, advises elected officials to deliver or be shown way out. Okonjo-Iweala, Amina Mohammed, Saraki, David Green, Elumelu, others task incoming governors on economy and good governance. You also have above the masthead $800 million loan. World Bank clears air, says decision to draw down facility rest with incoming government. You also have U.S. imposes visa ban on Nigerians who disrupted 2023 elections. Appeal court says enforcement of order suspending Seplat CEO, others. Stays enforcement, rather. So these are the main stories on the This Day newspaper today.
Now let's take a look at Nigerian Tribune. It has a lead story that says NAS presiding officers, North Central governors fault APC zoning template. And the writer says Yeri adamant as more senators pledge support. We have 222 buildings, 336 families affected by rainfall in Lagos. This is according to NEMA. Suspected terrorist blows up self to evade arrest in Kaduna. Resident doctors begin warning strike. We also have court bars NYC from further disclaiming Enugu governor-elect certificate. Police quiz Shehu Kuti over assault on police officer. Case transferred to SCID. And then we have a pictorial showing Hilda Bassi. And the caption says, Jubilation as Hilda Bassi ends marathon cooking, sets 100-hour record. And the rider, her feat is to be reviewed, not yet official. This is according to the Guinness World Record. And beneath the pictorial, 2023 polls, U.S. imposes visa restrictions on election violators. IGP warns persons plotting to scuttle inauguration of new government. And the writer says, manhunt launched for elements behind plot.
All right. So let's get some perspectives to some of the stories here on our front pages this morning. Like we told you, we have Dr. Theophilus Abba in the studio. Welcome again to Daybreak.
Thank you.
Well, quite a number of stories this morning on the newspapers, particularly talking about the 29th of May inauguration, as well as the address of Mr. President to governors-elect, where he was urging them to perform or risk being kicking out. He says something very striking, that the Nigerian electorates are maturing. Would you subscribe to that?
Well, the Nigerian electorate, actually, there was a deliberate voting pattern that took place in 2023 elections, demonstrating that the electorate, can actually decide the fate of politicians who didn't perform or who did not live up to their responsibility. If you look at the outcome of the senatorial and the House of Representatives election, it demonstrated that Nigerians can decide, who should be in power. Where sitting governors lost senatorial election. In the past, it was like a thoroughfare for any sitting governor to move to the Senate. But several of them, who vied for senatorial seat lost. And that demonstrated that, look, the voters, were deliberate, in deciding who should go to the Senate to represent them. Happens also in the House of Reps. In Kaduna State, for instance, we understand, somebody who was a motorcyclist, won an election, because people deliberately voted for him. So that demonstrates that, the voters in Nigeria are now maturing. Then, in addition to that, is the fact that technology has made it a bit difficult for figures to be manipulated. Because the beavers gives you the number of persons who were actually accredited. And so when you want to stuff ballot boxes, it becomes really difficult, because the number of, you cannot write figures above the number of persons who have been accredited. But in the past, ballot boxes were stuffed, and those who did not, win elections, were declared winners until that happened. But now the system is different. The system is different. So I think what the president said is quite apt. If INEC could, amend some of the errors in the 2023 election, it would be really difficult for anyone to just misbehave, and think that he can get a re-election.
Talking about just behave the way you like and get re-election, Okojo-Iweala said something. She talked about, she asked them to watch their debt profile and then be careful how they spend, and also work hard to increase IGR. These are three issues that Nigerians have always talked about, that if these issues are looked into, maybe the plight of people in the states will be a bit better. Do you think that what she has said is going to change anything?
Well, the fact remains that for governors, even as journalists, we've not really scrutinized, their operations. Because some of the loans that governors have, collected, for instance, have been misapplied. In several states, you are told that, they took loan to do this, to do that. You go there, you don't find anything on ground. One of the things I worry about is this, even at local government level, you discover that the local government gets maybe 100 million from the federation account. It has a salary bill of maybe 30 million to pay. And at the end of the day, this money is not paid. Many state governors are owing salaries. Many of them are owing salaries. So why should they be owing salaries? They have IGR. Even when you talk about IGR, you see, we have discovered that IGR, many state governments are earning a lot of money, but this fund is stolen. Because if you go to the market, if you go to, what they get from Okada riders, what they get from different sources within the state, if you put it together and you judiciously apply them, you can achieve a lot. But at the state level, these funds are stolen. There is no accountability. And so I'm thinking that it will be, governors will not be running into debt. They will not be owing salaries if they actually judiciously manage what they get. And I also advocate, here, that the money they get as, security vote, should be reviewed. For what we know, they get as much as 500 million every month for security votes, and they don't account for it. So governors must be made to be accountable. Because as long as governors are not accountable, everybody wants to become governor. Because you can take money and use the money the way you want, spend the money the way you want, and nobody, ask questions. Then the DMO also must review the debt status of every government, every state government before they approve any loan. Because every foreign loan is backed up by the federal government through the DMO. So you can't just be collecting loans on behalf of generations unborn, and we don't see how these funds are applied. So I'm thinking that if they will take to those council, the 20, those who are taking over by May 29, they will have a better system. But as we know, people quickly forget, those kinds of counsel.
All right. Now, talking about accountability, yesterday the United States says that they have decided to, issue visa ban on some individuals who are considered to have, undermined the 2023 general elections. What do you make of that story, and what effect is that?
Well, so the United States is actually contributing to transparency in our election. It's not that, they shouldn't be the ones to say, okay, we saw you committed an offense, and so we are not good, I don't give you visa. But they are doing so because they feel that by doing that, many Nigerians will be discouraged from engaging in such fraud. Because I'm feeling that there are a lot of laws, we have Electoral Act is there, and anyone who violates the electoral is supposed to be punished. So I'm expecting that the INEC and security agencies, should take it upon themselves to identify those who violated the law. But now what the Americans are doing, I think it's a welcome development. As far as I'm concerned, it's a welcome development. Because if you read the National Democratic Institute's report on the 2023 election, they were diplomatic, but they made a lot of things very clear about those who prevented people from voting, those who engaged in hate speech, those who manipulated the process, the fact that the system did not work the way everything was spelled out. And it shows, the NDI report shows, the attitude of the U.S. government towards, the election.
Dr. Abba, do you really believe that imposing a ban on a politician in Nigeria, the U.S. imposing a ban on a politician in Nigeria, would deter that politician from doing whatever it takes to win an election? And the reason I ask is this. Now, they have imposed this ban on this particular individual. First of all, there are persons who are saying... families, no, not their families.
Their families, there are some of them whose families would also be affected.
Yes, but most times it's just the individual. The families are spared. Meanwhile, the monies that these individuals take or get from sitting on that seat is spent by these individuals, these family members, and the family members are still able to travel to that same U.S. That's one. Then secondly, there are people who are saying that the U.S. always says, okay, before an election, we're going to ban. After an election, they say they're imposing this ban. And they never say the people that maybe if they name the persons involved, maybe it will have an effect.
I think it's the duty of our security agencies to name those who violated our electoral law. When you talk about those who prevented some persons from voting, those who, snatch ballot boxes, those who engage in all sorts of hate speech, who encourage violence during the election. We have the Electoral Act that forbids all these things. So it is the duty of INEC or the security agency to say, okay, these guys committed this offense. But for the Americans, the Americans cannot come to Nigeria and say, look.
Well, Dr. Abba, it is the duty of our security agencies and other various institutions in Nigeria, but have they lived up to that expectation? That's the next question.
Yeah, that is the issue. They have not lived up to that expectation. Now, what the American government is doing, and which I think is right, they say, look, you have violated your own laws. You are not going to enter into our country. We will not allow you to step into America. You understand? The fact that they didn't name them does not mean that you don't know them. Because, you see, they read these papers. They have all sorts of, different kinds of sources of information. You know, they have evidence.
My question is still one. Do you think that is enough to deter Nigerian politicians from doing the things that they do during elections? Some of them, that is.
In fact, it may not be enough.
Because they can still go to other countries around.
You can go to other countries, but, you know, but Americans are saying, look, you can go to others, but don't come to our own country because you are abusing the systems in your country. So don't come to America. I'm thinking that many of them want to go to America. They are the ones who go on holidays. They are the ones who take their children to America. They are the ones who go there or medical whatsoever. So if they are prevented, you know, if you are told that look, you are not going to leave your country, not because you are a good man, because you are a bad man. You feel it. So I'm thinking that if the Americans are doing this, to help our democracy, then the government, the system, security agencies should do more. Do you know, they want to see those who violated the Electoral Act punished.
Do you think that there's perhaps the possibility of maybe United States allies also sharing the same sentiments, you know, of banning some of these people as well?
Well, each country has its own decision to make. I know the EU have their own policy, you know, but the EU has not come out to say we are banning you from coming to our country. EU, UK too has not made such a statement. Do you understand? So I'm thinking that, each country has its own policy, but they may not necessarily follow the footsteps of the Americans. They may have other measures, you know, that they put in place. And one of the things you must realize that these countries actually supported the elections. You know, I remember I was doing a research recently, and I know that EU gave INEC more money than any other country. You know, the Americans also did, UK also did. Canada also did. These countries, they support election. So if they have given so much money in billions of naira, I think when I put the whole thing together, it's over 100 billion that came to INEC, right, you know, from these countries. They expect that, look, we cannot invest so much in your country, in your election, and still have this outcome. Okay. And so we must have to punish those things that violated.
All right. Well, another story that has been on the front burner has generated a lot of buzz, really, on the social media space, is the story of the arrest of Seun Kuti, son of Fela Kuti, which has gone viral. A lot of people have been talking and sharing their perspectives on it. We saw him in a picture, handcuffed, not just in a picture, but even in a video as well. And this is someone we learned turned himself in, you know, in Ikeja police, at the Ikeja police command, and yet he was handcuffed. And people are saying, well, if he turned himself in, why are you arresting him? Why are you putting him on handcuffs? And there are still a lot of, you know, controversies around this.
My own perspective,
but that's not taking away what he did. You know, seen in a video, slapping a police officer, and, you know, doing things that certainly is illegal.
Okay, my own perspective is this. You see, the police officer is the symbol of the government, the federal government. If he was not in uniform, it's a different. If he was in uniform, and you are slapping, like slapping, you know, the government, which I think is not acceptable anywhere in the world. You see, as long as, you put on your the police uniform, you are a police officer, you are wearing your uniform, you see, you should be respected. You know, that's why if a traffic controller is at a traffic junction, he will just raise his hand and every vehicle will stop. If he didn't wear that uniform, people say, who are you? They can even drive off. So for Seun to have behaved like that is very, 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 very bad. And for it to be caught on video, I don't know whether, I would think that it was premeditated. If the video was, if it was deliberately recorded on video,
it was other committers.
It appeared as if it was recorded by someone else.
But Seun should not have behaved in that manner. No matter what a police officer has done, even if he violated it, you have the duty to report to the police station, to the even commissioner or whatsoever. Just take his details and report, but not to slap and assault a police. It is totally wrong. And I'm thinking that what the police did by handcuffing him, well, is to demonstrate that, look, you are not above the law. And so as many as see him, handcuffed, next time they will not assault a police officer. We know that our police officers may not be living up to expectation,
yes,
but we must respect.
But there are rules regarding making arrest and handcuffing a person. And people are saying, well, if you seek to enforce the law, if you seek to protect the law as the authority or as the police, then you also have a duty to make sure that you yourself, you are not in breach of the law. Because what there are people who are quoting the Criminal Criminal Justice Act, saying that the procedure for arrest does not include you handcuffing someone who is turning himself in. He was not. There are conditions for arresting and handcuffing a person, except if a person is resisting arrest or there's a danger that is likely to be posed to the officers and the rest of them. So you now handcuff the person. So they are saying that he turned himself in. There wasn't any need for you to put him on handcuffs, and that's a breach of law.
Well, that is a matter of law, because you can argue it either way. Because if you are under arrest, your movement is restricted. If your movement is restricted, I mean, if they felt that, look, they need to handcuff you to restrict your movement, they can do. But then that is about the law. But I'm thinking that what the police have done is actually to discourage others from behaving in that manner. Because we have seen people in Nigeria, you know, who assault policemen. You have them as, security. Maybe you ask the police to give you some security persons to guide you, or then you assault them, you beat them up, you send them to do menial jobs. So it diminishes the integrity of the police. And we cannot allow that to continue. It doesn't happen in any other parts of the world. In fact, if you follow the trend on social media, I was appalled by some of the things I saw. There were loads of people hailing Sheung for what he did. Which is totally wrong. Was totally, I was shocked by that. A lot of people. So do you think that with this arrest, and then the police is considering arraignment and all of that, do you really believe that it will serve as a deterrent going forward? And that Nigerians, social media, especially those on social media, will understand what you said earlier, that when you're wearing uniform, you're a representative of the government and you cannot be treated anyhow. I think what the police, have done, maybe is to say, okay, no matter how popular you are, Sheung, is very popular, he's an influencer. No matter how popular you are, you cannot maltreat the police. And I think I hail the IGP, for taking some of the steps he took, because you can't say, oh, I can do whatever I want to do because I'm popular, because I have people that follow me all over the world, and my father is renowned. In fact, a day after the assault, he actually did a video a day after the assault to tell Nigerians that were talking to shut up, that he knows why he did it. So he cannot take the law into his hand. If the policeman has done anything wrong, what he ought to do is to report to his senior officials. You can't just begin to assault an officer simply because I'm emphasizing this, because he is an officer, and because I have family members who are police officers. I know the kind of sacrifices they make. You can have issues with the police, but I know they make a lot of sacrifices. There are so many things they do which we may not reckon with, but to humiliate a police officer is totally wrong. Okay.
All right, well, let's move on to yet another story which has generated a lot of buzz also on social media. And this time around it's about an order of a court which issued against the NYSC to stop NYSC from, disclaiming a certificate issued to Mr. Peter Mba, who is the governor-elect of Enugu State. The court is there, so there's this controversy around his NYC certificate, and they claim that it's a forged certificate, it's not authentic, and so there was an inquiry to NYC to that effect. And NYC, I think I saw two letters saying that the NYC certificate of Peter Mba is not genuine and is not coming from the NYSC. And so you have this court order now saying that NYSC cannot disclaim, that certificate, and all that. So I don't know. What's your reaction to this?
It's an era of politics, and a whole lot of things are happening now. I think some politicians wrote to NYSC to say, look, this guy's NYSC certificate. Tell us whether it is genuine. an NYC wrote to say, well, this is not genuine. And those people are publicizing that letter. Now, as far as the law is concerned, it's not it's the court of law that should determine whether a document is fake or is genuine. NYC will say, we didn't issue this document. Then the court of law will now look at the document. Document 1, document 2. Let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the strokes. Let's look at the loops, the signatures. Let's look at the details of the certificate. Let's look at the security features of this certificate.
Some kind of forensic
Yes, forensic examination. Those are the things that you need to do. Then the court will say, this is actually fake. Now, if NYC has issued a letter which is being used, by politicians to their own end, then I don't think the court is wrong to say, okay, stop circulating. A court of law has to decide. Forensic experts will have to look at the document and say, look, this is actually not the original document. Because, well, I don't know if NYC has come. Anybody can write a letter. Can say, look, this is not our own. And you just got... So we need an NYC official who will come and testify in the court as a witness to say, look, this document is not our own. I am so-and-so officer. I'm the one in charge of issuing this document. This is not our own.
But will it require the court really to certify whether a certificate is genuine or not? And again, what does this say about our institutions? If an institution releases a document, and there's a lot of doubt on that, what does it say about the credibility of our institutions and how our institutions are now seen to be meddling in, personal and political issues?
Well, I don't think it's the NYC that is actually meddling. I think it's the political class, because it's politicians who are publicizing the letter to say, oh, because if somebody writes to Daily Trust now and say, look, a so-and-so person is staff of Daily Trust, the HR will write yes or no. You understand? Now, those who got that letter will decide to escalate it in any way.
In the era of social media, how much control really is there?
Yes, but the court
say it shouldn't be publicized, because I mean it's almost impossible.
You see, for you to declare something to be fake, for you to declare it fake, it means that an authority, who knows the genuine one, will say, this one, I've seen this too, this is fake because of ABCD. It's not enough for you to say this is fake. You must tell us what measures we have. I mean, what you looked at, what parameters you looked at before you see that. So I'm thinking that, you see, if I were what's his name again?
Peter
Mba. You see, the important thing is to go to court and say, look, establish. I have this NYS certificate in 2003 or 2001, and I mean, what do you call them? NYC is saying it is fake. I'm suing NYC. I mean, I know this and know that.
All right. There's this issue I would like you to talk about before we go. Inflation hits 22.2% in April despite monetary tightening. The thing is this, between May and now, the CBN has increased interest rate by 650 basis points. That's about 6 times that they did that. And each time, even now, this inflation is caused majorly by food inflation. So some persons are saying, isn't it about time the strategy is changed? Because they have consistently chased the inflation with interest rate hike, yet we don't see things changing.
Well, if you look at the NBS figures, when you say 22.2%, if you check the figure, the raw figures, the food inflation is not just 22%; it's over 30%. The last time I checked, because the inflation is not only about food, you talk about transportation. You talk about power and all this and electricity and all of them. It's the aggregate of all those things that they use to determine. But food inflation is about 30-something%. Maybe the last one I saw, the one of last month was about 30-something%. And that is to tell you that, look, you see, Nigerians are suffering. It's not about percentages now. It's about how people are living. That is what I keep, when figures are churned out like this, percentages are churned out, I say, look, you see, look at how people's lives are affected. If you look at Gary, if you look at oil, look at what we eat, yam.
And now tomato.
Tomato, okay, tomato. I think we're saying that a basket is about 70,000. And you can imagine if you bought it by say for 70,000 and you have a restaurant, you know, and you have to factor the cost of tomato into what people will pay when they eat food. And these are the issues that we should look at. There has to be a deliberate attempt to bring down food prices. You know, because what we know is that in other parts of the world, food is subsidized. You know, so if you don't bring down food prices, people will be under pressure to steal. People will be under pressure to commit crime because they will really need to eat. So in spite of everything, I think the next government must be deliberate about it. You don't just leave things to chance.
Okay. Before we leave, Doctor, I would like your comments on the record breaker, Hilda Bassi, who is now holding the world record. Well, we are still waiting for the Guinness Book of Record, but she has clocked 100 hours cooking.
And with Ayuba now saying that that's the new standard for women to be cooking. I don't understand.
Well, I'm not the one saying it. But some men are now beginning to say, well, if Hilda Bassi could cook for 100 hours, then what about our wives? And
okay, but it's a very interesting, very exciting. You know what? When I started monitoring the story, I felt, you see, in little ways, in your own small way, you can actually make an impact. Nobody ever thought that cooking would be taken so seriously to the point that somebody will cook for about 100 hours and break a world record. Yeah. You know, so little things that we're engaging, little things that we're tenacious about. You know, we can make impact in diverse ways. The young girl is already. Celebrities are not. Yeah. People are going to use her, you know, for advertisement. People are going to call her to come and do this and become ambassador. I won't be shocked if one food industry say, okay, come and become our food ambassador and things like that.
Airlines and other tourist companies are already saying, well, we are giving you a free trip to Maldives to go there, stay for. You know,
so you don't discount anything. Even there are little things that can make one famous. He mustn't become the president of Nigeria to be famous, and he mustn't become a criminal to be famous. Little things that we do can make one famous.
And so I think congratulations. The solidarity that she has enjoyed.
And all of us eat food. So there's no way you can say, oh, this man is, I don't know where she even comes from.
Akwa
Ibom. You can't say, oh, this girl is from Akwa Ibom, so I shouldn't identify with her. Everybody is clapping hands for her, all of us, all Nigerians, whether you are Akwa Ibom or whatsoever. So it's a very positive development. And at the time when almost everything about Nigeria sounds negative, you know, you hear about election, you hear about this, you hear about economy, you hear about inflation, then somebody is making everyone to be happy. I think it's a very good development.
All right. Well, congratulations to Hilda once again. Well, thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us on Daybreak and sharing your perspectives on these stories.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Theophilus Abba is the Director of Programs, Daily Trust Foundation, joining us on Daybreak for his perspective on, the stories on the front pages of our newspapers. We'll take a short breather. When we return, we'll take a look at the headlines again and our main discussion of the day. Join us again.
But in a situation where you find that they look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right, welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on Trust TV, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. It's top of the hour. We'll be taking a look at the headlines again for those who are just joining. We are halfway into the show already. The show is not about to end. The show is now 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. So let's take a look at the headlines again. Deliver on your promises or be voted out, Buhari tells governors.
Federal government unveils NICOMSA digital health solution.
Sudan crisis. FG gives condition for fresh evacuation.
Now let's take a look at the details. President Muhammadu Buhari has asked the newly elected and returning governors to deliver on their campaign promises or get ready to be voted out in the next elections. He spoke on Monday during the induction of the Nigerian Governors Forum organized ahead of the May 29 inauguration. Our correspondent reports that the organizers said the event, which kicked off at the banquet hall of the presidential villa in Abuja on Monday, is aimed at equipping the new governors to develop the essential skills for democratic governance and the implementation of pre-election blueprints. The president, who was represented by the Chief of Staff, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, said Nigerians must be patient, tolerant, and use the appropriate channels to seek redress.
All right. Now, the federal government has unveiled NICOMSA digital health solution called NICOMSA Health Platform to provide accessible and affordable healthcare services to all Nigerians. Unveiling the solution, the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, Professor Isa Ali Pantami, said that the NICOMSA Health Platform would help in bridging the widening gap in the Nigerian health sector. He described the platform as a timely solution that could ensure that quality healthcare services are available to all Nigerians, irrespective of their locations. With the platform, the minister said that the practice of medical tourism, where the more privileged Nigerians travel abroad for better medical service, is hoped to reduce drastically through the NICOM Health program.
Now, the federal government has given conditions for evacuation of those still stranded in Sudan. The condition is said are a result of the sudden increase in the number of people still seeking evacuation. According to a fresh update by the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, those seeking evacuation should find their way to Port Sudan. They must also have means of identification as Nigerians. Besides, for the government to embark on a fresh evacuation process, the evacuees must have verifiable contacts or abode in Nigeria. No fewer than 2,518 Nigerians have been evacuated following the war in Sudan.
All right. Now, the race for the leadership of the 10th National Assembly is becoming tougher a few days to the May 29 inauguration before the assembly, that's the 9th assembly, is being called off. Now, although the ruling All Progressives Congress, which has majority in the upper and lower chambers, declared a zoning arrangement for the positions, some aspirants vying for the Senate presidency and the speakership are disagreeing with that position. The issue rages on now. One big question on the lips of many Nigerians is whether or not the elections of the leadership in National Assembly will be based on merit or on zoning. Take a look.
With every passing day, horse trading continues in the two chambers of the National Assembly for the elections of principal officers ahead of the end of the 9th Assembly on May 29th. The ruling All Progressives Congress APC has majority and has zoned the Senate presidency and speakership to South-South and Northwest respectively. However, the APC National Assembly Aspirants Caucus has since rejected the zoning arrangement, creating room for a heated public debate on the matter among Nigerians. Nepotism is what underdeveloped this country. Godfathers install incompetent leaders because they are their godsons for personal interest. Those doing so should fear God. It is bad to enforce leaders. It is taking us backward. People had voted in the last election and their votes count. Democracy should prevail in the National Assembly.
Abin da ya kamata a gaba a majalisar dattawa
Elections to fill principal positions in the National Assembly should be free from any regional sentiment. Youth should be allowed to take over because most of the leaders are between 70 and 80 years old. While some Nigerians reject zoning or nomination of candidates by the APC in the election of the National Assembly leadership, political analysts believe that for quality leadership to emerge in the country's legislature, a free and fair election must be allowed to take place at both the upper and the lower chambers.
If there is a teamwork, if there is a unity, if there is adherence to the due process and rule of law, whoever is the leader, it will not change anything, it will not make any difference, it will still be the same thing, we will have what we want. But I am urging them to allow internal democracy within the party to work out. Let them allow those that are contesting, let them allow the National Assembly as an independent entity that has freedom constitutionally to determine who should be and then to go on board instead of imposing, which at the end of the day will lead to revolting.
As it stands, top contenders for the speakership position are Ahmed Idris Wase, Aliyu Mukhtar Betara, Tajuddin Abbas, and Sada Soli Jibia. For the Senate presidency, Godswill Akpabio, Oji Uzo Kalu, Abdulaziz Yari, and Sani Musa are the major contenders. However, zoning arrangement of the APC has given some candidates an upper hand in the race. Ibrahim Ismail, Trust TV News, Gombe.
All right. Now, the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Malam Milekari, said despite harsh operating environment, NNPC Limited is projecting a $20 billion growth in the nearest future. He made a projection during a courtesy visit to the Media Trust headquarters in Abuja on Tuesday, where he spoke on a wide range of issues around the NNPCL operations, including efforts to make the country gas sufficient and increase energy security. Chamun Dambek completes the report.
Since its transition from a government-owned entity to being a limited liability company in July 2022, the NNPC Limited, which is the largest oil company in Africa, has been making strides to ensure that it remains a profitable organization. According to the group CEO Mele Kyari, NNPC Limited has a book value of $60 billion and projects to reach $80 billion in the near future. However, Nigeria faces a myriad of challenges affecting the certainty and progress of businesses within the nation.
In this country, for you to run a kind of business now, you are subjected to over 13 taxations. You know, every state government brings out laws, regulations that will border on your investment. So we are not a predictable business environment. You have to keep certain things stable and reliable and predictable. Our fiscal environment, yes, the PIA has done great work. 90% of issues resolved, 90% of fiscal environment fixed, but we still have a challenge because companies don't know when the next set of rules will come. That's why engaging the politicians to understand and appreciate is very, very critical.
Nigeria has a proven gas reserve of about 206.53 trillion cubic feet, worth an estimated $803.4 trillion, making it the most extensive gas reserve in Africa. However, this natural reserve is yet to be fully harnessed, making it imperative for the NNPC Limited to develop strategies towards its effective utilization.
And that's why we're focused on delivering gas into our country, creating the backbone infrastructure, which is very, very critical. So that is kind of intervention that we are doing to build the backbone infrastructure so that we have what we call a Y shape, lines starting from the east, crossing into the west and all the way into the north to Kano. So you have a Y-shaped backbone infrastructure, which means that there's no part of the country which will be further than most, not all, than 400 kilometers from the major trunk line. And once you have done this, you have 8 billion scoop of gas in your network. For the next 5 to 6 years, you will have sufficient gas for you to meet your domestic need.
As the rest of the world moves away from fossil fuels and focuses on clean and renewable energy, this development has raised concerns for many Nigerians as the country's revenue heavily relied on crude oil. However, Kyari says Nigeria's case is different.
You hear a lot of stories around energy transition, clean fuel, and then, of course, lack of investment in the fossil fuel industry and so on and so on. Our case is very different. the railway system still hasn't grown to the level where we can rely on it for transportation of people, goods, and even petroleum. And of course, the road network, that's why we came in to intervene, to see how NNPC's tax credits can be utilized to bring that infrastructure.
The Visitor Media Trust is in a bid to establish a functional relationship and open clear lines of communication between the regulatory body and the media. Chamun Dabeng, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Right now, no fewer than 200 retired police officers staged a peaceful protest in Bauchi State demanding the Inspector General of Police to expedite their exit from contributory pension scheme over the lingering issues that started since 2012. They made their grievances known during the protest to the Bauchi State Commissioner of Police at the State Police Command. Adamu Imam reports.
At the peaceful protest, the retired Nigerian police officers in Bauchi re-echoed their appeal to the Inspector General of Police, Baba Al-Kali, to pave the way for their removal from the contributory pension scheme as they are suffering instead of benefiting. Leader of the protesting police pensioners is ASP Adotafida retired. He is represented at the protest by the Secretary of the Association, John Elia.
Members has died due to the way and manner they were frustrated. I also seize this opportunity to tell you that PENCOM, as you know, is a killer disease and was introduced to ease suffering of retired workers of Nigeria. But it turns out to be a different thing, where some organizations or agencies were pulled out due to some selfish reasons. By God's grace, we shall soon cross the bridge, inshallah. Thank you.
While responding, the State Police Commissioner Aminu Al-Hassan stated that the retired officers have done more for the country than what they are getting as ex-officers, and assured them that their grievances will be communicated to the IGP.
Even with you, I pity you, and by grace of Allah, I will make sure that whatever I will do to uplift this problem, I will do. The PENCOM you want to exit from, if I ask you, where do you want to go? You didn't mention it. You understand? If somebody say, for example, he doesn't like to stay in Bauchi or he doesn't want to stay in Nigeria, okay, where do you want to go? You didn't mention. You're supposed to have mentioned that one.
They also urged their members to remain steadfast as their struggle will continue until they reclaim their request is granted. Adami Imam, Trust TV News, Bauchi.
All right, that's a wrap on our packages for this morning. We'll now go for a very short break. When we return, we're going to our discussion for the day. Please stay.
Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130...
Created a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secure are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Already, if you look at English squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
All right, thank you for staying with us. You are watching Daybreak on Trust TV, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. Now, human trafficking, a form of modern-day slavery, involves the illegal trade of people for exploitation or commercial gain and is a $150 billion global industry. Two-thirds of this figure is generated from commercial sexual exploitation. Nigeria remains a source, transit, and destination country when it comes to human trafficking. The UN's International Organization for Migration further reports that as of April 2022, there were approximately 649,788 migrants in Libya, of which Nigerians represented approximately 5%. Now, recently, trafficked Nigerian women in Iraq begged for evacuation. This morning, our Daybreak show will be centered on human trafficking. And to discuss this issue, we have in the studio Mr. Agoro Ganiu Alao, who is head of Intelligence and International Cooperation Unit, the National Agency for Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons and other related matters. We also have Mr. Francis Onyekwe, National Coordinator, Trauma Awareness and Resilience Initiative. Also, joining us virtually via Zoom from Yola in Adamawa State, we have Agboso Bamei, who is a public affairs commentator. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on Daybreak this morning as we look at this issue.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, let me begin by saying that recently with the Sudan crisis and the need to evacuate Nigerian students who are there, we saw, a whole lot happened as to our diplomatic ties with other African countries and our level of preparedness when it comes to responding to emergencies such as this. Also, we are getting the revelation of some women in Iraq who are seeking, repatriation. But in some cases, it is only when emergency like this happen that you hear of people in some locations. Sometimes you don't even know. Our embassy sometimes do not really have a complete data as to who is, where and all that. Let me start with you, Mr. Ganiu. What have been your experience dealing with, such issues and Nigerians leaving the shores of the country, in brief?
Well, like you said earlier, my name is Agoro Ganiu Alao, and I say to our viewers at home, good morning and welcome to the program. The experience has, in most cases, I must tell you, the experience has not always been palatable, because most times when they are coming back, there are a lot of challenges that come with it. And don't also forget that bringing them back is also a combination of partnership arrangement between the stakeholders. We'll be talking of NEMA, sometimes maybe taking the lead, and then sometimes you might also have the humanitarian affairs of which TAPTIP is under. And then most of these evacuations, when they are coming in, we first of all had meetings, and then we also discussed the strategy. We also have DITCOM sometimes also coming in. And then when they are coming in, sometimes we also need to know what are the number coming in for a start. And then we also assign ourselves the task of what do you do. For us, for instance, for NAPTIP, most of my officers are always there. My counselors are always there, especially to provide psychosocial support for them when they are coming in like that. So you see, it's a combination of the whole of the agency and sometimes the law enforcement agency also coming in to also be part of the officers on ground, receiving them as they are coming in. But sometimes you don't also have adequate data. And then also, they don't also come once like that. They just come once in piecemeal. Like, for instance, some of my officers that are involved in this recent one, the plane sometimes landed by 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and they have to be there on ground, because by the time they are coming, they have to receive them. They have to also do profiling and also see how they can provide psychosocial support for some of them as they are coming in. So these are some of the work that we do there. And the other agencies also have their own areas, their roles to play, so that as they are coming in, you have to welcome them, give them nice reception, ensure that you give them the promise that since they have come home, everything will be okay for them going forward.
All right. Mr. Onyekwe, you have been working with Trauma Initiative.
Yeah.
The question he's talking about coming in, my question is going. The recent cry is from women in Iraq who have been harassed, who are not having good working conditions and all of that. Almost on a weekly basis, we see returnees from Libya. My question is, why do Nigerians go to these countries? Iraq is not doing well at the moment. Libya, war-torn area. So some of the people that you talk to in your initiative, Trauma, what do they tell you is the motivation, apart from the ones we hear all the time, unemployment? What is it exactly that will make you leave a country that isn't peaceful, as it were, that's Nigeria, we don't have war, and go to that kind of place?
Yeah, there are a lot of issues, there are a lot of cases, like when you talk of unemployment, some of them go there for a greener pasture, for a better job. Some of them are being coerced. They don't even know why they are going until they get there. The story changes. Some of them are lured into it. You understand? So, but the thing is this, locally, we need to raise up awareness because it starts from the recruitment. Some people recruit, but they don't know they are doing the job of trafficking. Some people get involved in transporting these people. They don't know they are doing trafficking. For example, National Union of Road Transport Workers, we have carried out a lot of sensitization program to them. And many of them confess that they didn't know. If you're carrying somebody, especially a teenager, know who is taking the person, know where the person is going, know what the person is going for. Because at the end of the day, you have succeeded in transporting that person. You are involved also. You understand? So, but you see, when they promise them a lot of goodies, they think it's all like that. The next thing you see them traveling. And unfortunately, majority of them travel by road. Majority of them travel by road. And when they have started, going back is not easy again. So they just have to continue. So we need to do a lot. Even with this program is part of sensitization. If every radio station, TV station, newspaper outlets will continue to create awareness.
We don't listen though, because every week when we listen, these people coming from Libya, newsmen approach them and they talk about their experiences, and oftentimes harrowing. Yet, the next week, you see other people on the same journey.
That's what we talk about coercing. Some of them are being coerced, some of them are being forced. You understand? And there are a lot of promises that they will get better. In fact, when you get there, you will be sending $1 to your people. And everybody wants this $1.
Okay.
Can I come in there?
Better way, in the right way.
All right, Mr. Gani wants to chip in.
Can I come in there? I want to appreciate what you have said. You have actually laid bare a few of the factors. But for me, I want to also tell you that most of these are young girls and young boys going out. If you look at it, desperation is one of the key areas there. And then you also look at the areas of peer pressure among their colleagues. But now what we have also witnessed is that in recent times, we have also observed that most of the recruitment, when you come to issue of trafficking, are done online. So we have a lot of social media engagement now through the WhatsApp, through the Facebook. Most of them are actually being recruited through that means now. It is no more physical contact that I will come and visit you and then talk to you. Deceit is also on the high. So we see a lot of people being deceived. When you get there, you are going to collect $500, you are going to do that. But the issue of Iraq comes to the mind now, because in recent times, during our intelligence gathering and then also intelligence with other sister partners, the international partners, then the UN partners, and also the law enforcement agencies, we also discover now that the movement now is more towards Iraq. And then that is why 2 weeks ago, my Director General, Professor Fatima Waziri Azi, issued a press statement saying that we have high number of people now going to Iraq, especially our female girls. And it has been discovered that by the time they get to Iraq, they go to Baghdad, they take them to Basra. And you now discover that majorly for domestic servitude. And most times when some of these people get there, the kind of work they do that you are calling domestic is not an easy job. You can imagine somebody that is not allowed to sleep, somebody that works till daybreak, she continues to work. And if you see the kind of experience, some of them are sick, they don't get medical attention. Some of them, the moment they get there, Their travel documents are taken away from them. Their phones are taken away from them. And then even the amount they told them they are going to be paid is not paid.
Okay.
And now, if you look at most of these things, we have, for instance, NAPTIP has been proactive. We have Regulation 2019 that talks about the travel and tour organizations and recruitment agents. So that regulation is undergoing a review now, because we want to also make it more, the penalties there to be more stiffer.
Okay.
So
okay, we'll come back to you in the studio. Let's go to Dr. Agboso Bameyi, who is virtual, joining us from Yola. Doctor, if you can hear me, let's get your own take. What would be the role of family in this conversation? How will family help? Because a lot of times we hear stories about some of these people going. The claim is that they want to go and help, raise money for their families.
Thank you very much, and good morning to our viewers. Well, the family plays a very important role in all this. And I think one of the reasons why we are having rising cases of human trafficking is because of the breakdown of family values. All across Nigeria and the various traditions and cultures and tribes we have in Nigeria, a child belonged to the community 30, 40 years ago. And the community, the entire community, everybody elderly in the community was responsible for the child. You didn't see a child as just your personal property, but everybody took care of the child. It's no longer the case now. Everybody is to himself now, just yourself, your immediate family. And as a result of the economic challenges and difficulties, and we also have to mention the increase in population. We have a huge increase in population from independence to now, over 3 times, 4 times the population we used to have way back then. We have the same resources, little resources, huge population, and you have this struggle for resources. The economy is not doing well. As a country, we've not lived up to our promise over the years, and so we have a lot of economic difficulties and challenges. All these things come together and make our young people vulnerable to recruitment and even coercion that the guests in the studio mentioned there. So yeah, if a family is working well and providing for the children and taking care of them, it becomes difficult for kids from functional families, young people from functional families, to be lured away from this. But like I said, a lot of the families are in serious difficulties. And as a result, the youth, sometimes you even find the parents participating. There are cases where these recruiters come to the parents and promise them heaven on earth. Your children will be taken care of. You send them out there. Your family will be better off. And so with the participation of the parents, some of these young girls and young boys are trafficked. So you're talking about the role of the family there. The family plays a very important role. I think the primary role is with the family. Okay. Unfortunately, there's a breakdown in family values. There's a breakdown in values in the society. Everything has been monetized. It doesn't matter how good you are, you're not respected in the society, but if you have money, you're respected. So everybody is running for money. That lure for money has made it very difficult for families to really take care of their own.
All right, Dr. Agboso. In Nigeria today, you see a situation where once you say you're traveling abroad, people begin to celebrate with you, even before asking where you're going to. So there's this notion that anywhere is better than Nigeria. And then some persons are saying maybe the NOA is not doing enough to talk about Nigeria to the people and the potentials hearing.
I think that the NOA is limited. They have lots of programs, fantastic programs that will create awareness on various issues pertaining Nigeria and issues around human trafficking. Same thing with the NAPTIP. Great organizations, great ideas, great laws establishing these organizations, but the financing is not there. We have to say this. The money to do the work is really not there. I've had discussions with leaders of these organizations around here, and what I hear from them is exciting, but they just don't have the resources to do the work. Each year, they come up with budgets. We want to do this, we want to do that. Budgets are approved, but allocations are not made, so they are really limited. Now, going back to your question, Nigerians feel that any place is better than Nigeria because, again, we have not lived up to the promise of Nigeria at independence. Things have not worked here. And it's so disheartening because it's not that we lack the potential. We have the potential, we have the resources, but we have not organized and managed ourselves very well to have the kind of output and results that will make Nigerians proud of Nigeria, especially the young people, and make them want to stay here. That's why they feel anywhere outside Nigeria is better than Nigeria. So, but if it's a matter of leadership and a matter of organizing ourselves very, very well. If we put our house together as a country and our economy begins to work well, we have security, law and order, I'm sure these things will naturally drop. We will still have cases, but they would naturally drop. So the situation is making Nigerians want to run out of Nigeria because they think things will be better as soon as they leave the country.
Okay. Well, let's come back to the studio, Mr. Agorong. To you now, earlier on you mentioned travel agents and the plans to monitor their operations and the rest of them. What kind of, because I believe that they play a major role. There are agents who are making a hell of money out of this system. What's the kind of collaboration that NAPTIP has, with other security agencies in arresting possibly these middlemen that make these things possible?
Thank you so much. I appreciate the question you have asked. The truth about it is that NAPTIP we collaborate effectively with all law enforcement agencies of the federal government. We also collaborate with international partners and then mostly UN agencies too. The truth about it is that if you look at most of the people that are actually taken out, that are trafficked, most of them go through unregistered or unlicensed travel and tour agents. Because if you go through the registered one, they know what to do. NAPTIP has a portal where all licensed registered agents register with us. And when they register with us, if you are taking 1 or 2 persons, you must get clearance from NAPTIP. Because our clearance from NAPTIP shows that we have been able to do due diligence, due processes, and then we have also been able to scrutinize wherever the victim is going to. The truth is that migration is right. You can't deny somebody from traveling, but you must travel the right way. When you are going for labor, you must have a license that permits you to recruit for labor in and outside Nigeria. So if you have that license, you must also register with NAPTIP as a recruiter. The moment you are registered with NAPTIP, wherever you are taking out, you must get a clearance. You must clear that person with NAPTIP. And in our own, we do a lot of work by clearing them. We ensure that what kind of job is this person going to do? Is the employer a registered employer in that country? Is that country safe for that person to work? What kind of salary is that person going to get? What is the other conditions? The rest hours, the period of rest, the number of hours is going to rest. Then what is the amount of money the person is going to get?
If for any reason things turn out not to be as said or as promised, one finds himself outside the country, is there any kind of arrangement for anybody who is willing to return back? Just like we've seen in the case of these women in Iraq. Is there any sort of arrangement or any kind of coordinated arrangements to say, okay, well, for some reason, even if you didn't follow the process before you went out, this has now happened. What do I do?
Well, for some of them, what we normally do is that the moment what is promised is not given to you, you have every right to come back. That is, if you have gone legally, you have gotten all your clearance and everything. And then secondly, like I told you earlier, NAPTIP work closely with international agencies, especially International Organization for Migration. We have this synergy. And what we normally do is that some of them go to IOM, some of them go to Nigerian embassy. The moment you are in Nigerian embassy, you are surely going to be brought back home. And then you see those that goes illegally, those that go through the wrong route, especially by the road, like my brother said. And especially this one happens mostly with the quack agents, those that are not registered, and those that have not done any clearance. So what we still tell them most of the time when they are stranded is that the first thing for you is to go to Nigerian embassy.
What about countries where we don't have diplomatic relations, and like Iraq, for instance?
Well, okay. Yeah, well, Francis.
Yeah, why I say I need to add voice to this is this. In as much as we try for these people not to leave, and they have gone, the issue of coming back, so many of them are willing to return. But I want to bet you, most of our embassies, Nigerian High Commission outside, don't treat these people the right way. Let's say the fact. You understand? You'll find out that some of them will be going to the embassy, there's no means of coming back. Some of them have lost their traveling documents. To give them emergency traveling certificate becomes another issue. You understand? So I think the embassy have to step up that way. Again, some high commissions will tell you that they don't have the funds to repatriate anybody. And there's no provision made for individual repatriation unless when they are a group. You understand? Like the case of Sudan now, this is when Nigeria moved. There are people in Libya that want to come back. There are people in Mali. There are Nigerians in Niger. Mali, Burkina Faso, all those places. They want to return. Italy, they want to return. But the issue is the reception at the embassy, at the High Commission. So I think the High Commission need to step up in this area, because most of the High Commission staffs are not NAPTIP staffs. If it is possible, let there be NAPTIP staff in every High Commission to profile these people. You understand? So long as you can establish the fact that they are Nigerians, I think they have a right to return, especially when they show willingness.
Let me also...
Okay, so on the issue of travel agents, it's a very good plan, it's a very good arrangement. But again, I can stay in my house and obtain ticket to travel. How do you do that, such people?
Let me just chip in one or two things with what you have said. I appreciate what you have said now, because like I said earlier, NAPTIP work with all the law enforcement and the MDAs, the ministry, departments, and agencies. For us, if you have a case or you have an issue and you prompt us, we act promptly.
Well,
and then part of what we do is
hold on, because when I was looking into this Iraq story,
yes,
I found that it didn't start today. In 2020, there were cries by some ladies. There was even one woman that was able to come back. 2020. And in 2023, NAPTIP is saying, oh, we've heard that people are going to Iraq, and the reason is because there was not a lot of attention on that route. So my question is, if you say you're always prompted and you always act...
Let me tell you one thing. Trafficking trends, as we have this week, may not be the same next week. Don't also forget that initially, there are, especially most of the West African countries, attention has always been drawn there, because we also have most of them going to some of these countries. Libya will continue to ring bell in everybody's ears. The reason is that for Libya, that is not their destination point. It is just a stopgap for them. Their destination points, most of them, is for Europe. Now, let me come back to your question. You remember that there was a time Iran was reigning. Now we are having, because most of these things, like I told you earlier, we work with most of these law enforcement. We work closely with National Intelligence Agency, Office of the National Security Advisor. We work very closely with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That was why I was telling you that the moment we get some of these prompts, we act.
Yes, but you work closely with all these organizations that you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the spread of NAPTIP? How spread are you? even not just domestically now, but even internationally, in some of these countries that we have mentioned. Does NAPTIP has a presence in those?
We don't, and those are some of the challenges we have. NAPTIP is not at the interdiction point.
I want to
let me be honest with you. We are not at the seaport. We are not at the airport. We are not at the border post, and this is part of what the agency is working on now. Because if we are in the embassies, to be honest with you, the moment a survivor or a victim comes in, it is our own job. We know what to do. And then we also know what to tell the embassy. Worst case scenario, if you don't have your document, it is there. We go all out. And then most of these countries too, we also have NGOs that will work something.
NAPTIP is a very good organization. In fact, when you look at Africa or West Africa, it's only Nigeria that have this agency. You understand? But the truth of the matter is that NAPTIP is handicapped financially. They can't do more. For example, we talked about their presence in the seaport, in the airport, in the embassies. It has to go through National Assembly and things like that for them to pass it, for them to start. And they need to, there need to be budget for NAPTIP to respond, actively when such cases arise.
All agencies in the country, when issues come up, we always talk about inadequate funding.
Exactly, it's a problem.
But
it's good to create agencies, but fund them so that they do the work.
I'd like us to talk to Dr. Agoso. Doctor, in one of the women that came in from Iraq in 2020 said that the agent paid her mother 250,000 naira at that point. What do you think can be done to these parents who are like in the forefront of pushing their children out? Because some of these young girls that go abroad, is the parents that are actually, in her case, in that lady's case, it was her parents that looked for the agent, talked to the agent, and then got money from the agent and then shipped her off.
That's what I said earlier on. A lot of this trafficking is done with the participation of the parents. They take money from the recruiters, from the traffickers, and encourage their children, in some cases even push their children to do it. It goes back to what I said earlier also, that there's a lot of poverty in the land. And if you feel like you're going to make money out of this, and based on the promise you have received, your child is going to have a better life, why not make the money and send the child? That's the thinking. The other thing that I need to point to, which is very important, is that, we agree there's poverty in the land, but not all parents are doing this. The trouble is that we have thrown away our values, our traditional values, our cultural values, and also our religious values. We do not value human life anymore. All we want is money. A young man can leave his village and travel to Abuja and return after 2 years with billions of naira. No, he will get chieftaincy titles, he will get honors, his office will be filled up with flags, and nobody will ask, how did he get that money in just 2 years? So we have a lot of challenges here that we need to look into as far as the society is concerned. We have to talk to ourselves and begin to value human beings and achievement based on doing the right thing than just money. Money everywhere. And that's the reason why we have all these problems, because everybody wants to make money. It doesn't matter how they make the money. The parents want to make money, children want to make the money. And when somebody comes and gives them a promise,
doctor,
that if we take you out there, you're going to make money, you will take care of your parents, and promise the parents a little money, they receive it. My point is this: there are lots of parents who are training their children properly, who are keeping their children, encouraging their children to do the right thing, and eventually these children turn well. So parents have got to talk to themselves to do the right thing so that their children will turn well eventually. Don't rush to get money or make money and destroy the lives of your children.
Okay, doctor, a lot really about money, and still talking about money. This time around, talking about the attention that our embassies overseas have received in terms of responding to such issues. How well do you think we have done? Because a lot of times we have hear these complaints about lack of funding and the rest of them. We don't hear government act in a proactive manner, rather reactive manner, mostly in emergencies. That's when we see government reaction in terms of evacuating people who are stranded outside. But in terms of, individual cases where people get stranded outside the country, how prepared are our embassies abroad to respond?
We're not prepared at all. If I sit here and say we're prepared, I'll just be talking. I wish we were prepared, but we're not. Our response is always very bad, very poor. Sometimes, like in Sudan now, it's after other countries have started responding and reacting. Smaller African countries that are not as rich as we are, that we then come in late, and our reaction is always very shabby. We're not organized at all. I tell people Nigeria is a great idea on potential. We've got potential more than any other country on the African continent. Our potential is such that we can be one of the 10 top countries in the whole world. We've also got intelligent people. We've got ideas on paper. Our educational system, the idea behind it is great. Our problem has always been execution. Okay. And two issues here.
Okay, thank you.
One is money.
All right, thank you, Doctor.
We hardly release enough money for these works to be done. Okay, the second thing is personal greed. You release the money, the leaders embezzle it. So as soon as we deal with those issues, we can put our house together, and Nigeria will do greatly as far as these things are concerned.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you. Quickly, let me come back to the studio as we wrap up the discussion. Dr. Agoso, what's the plan now in regards to the women in Iraq who are calling for their evacuation? What's the plan? What do we expect from NAPTIP?
Well, from NAPTIP, we have commenced strategizing with the other law enforcement agencies and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the NIA and then the others. And then we have also, in the course of our intelligence and also in the course of our investigation, we have also discovered that there are some couple of collaborators that are here.
Do we have timelines?
That are there. Well, it's a government thing, and it's not something that NAPTIP will do all alone. In all of this, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has to also be involved, and then the NIA and the others that are in those countries. So it's not something that NAPTIP will wake up today and tell you it's tomorrow. No, we have to also, but we have commenced actions on it, and then we're also looking at those identified perpetrators here and those at the other end. And then that is, for now, that's the way to go, because until we are able to sort all of that out, we will now be able to now move in and see what can be done to assist some of them to come back home.
All right. Thank you so much for your perspective, for joining us. Mr. Francis, thank you. Unfortunately, we won't be able to give you time to say a thing or two. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak this morning. Francis Onyekwe is the National Coordinator, Trauma Awareness and Resilience Initiative, and he's also been joined by the Head of Intelligence and Trafficking, and Head of Intelligence, yes, and International Cooperation Unit of the Trafficking in Persons and Other Related Matters, NAPTIP. Also, we have Dr. Agoso Bame, who is a public affairs commentator, joining us from Yola in Adamawa State. Thank you so much. We look forward to having you again.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Yeah. But that's our show for today. In case you've missed, you can always catch up across all our social media platforms and also on our YouTube live stream. I am Ayuba Ilya. Join us again tomorrow. Bye for now.
Thank you for keeping a date with us this morning. Join us same time, same station tomorrow. My name is Stella Iyajendu. Have a pleasant day.